it works for mothers and daughters, and others it
doesn't.
doesn't. Yeah, and kind of how you made it work for you.
And that's funny that you say that, because I have friends who have attempted to work with their children, and everyone always seems to have a different
issues, different perspectives, I think different views. We've met with a lot of mother-daughter teams, and some of them are like, oh, I'll never do that again, or I don't know what we were thinking. And for us, I'm kind of like, really? Because it works so well.
I know.
For the most part, we still have some things here and there, but it's
Which
nothing
you would have
that
in
would.
business.
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't really, it's not.
And with Mom being an entrepreneur her entire career, for the most part, as long as I've been alive, it's been part of, my sister and I have worked with her on and off during summers off and college years, and so we've always had that. We grew up with that relationship, kind of like, here's Mom at work, and then when Mom comes home, here's Mom and us at home. And then now that we both, my sister and I both work on different aspects of the company with Mom, and I think growing up with it's helped, instead of just one day thinking, maybe we'll start a business together, not really having that background at all.
That's an excellent
separate mother-daughter. So growing up, we were in the kitchen, I was de-stemming grapes, and Mom was there, and my sister Briar was there, and we just always kind of had that relationship where we were always at work with her, but then kind of knew on a separate, when we were home, it was a little different.
Did you see a difference in the personality between the business owner and Mom?
Not really. I saw it when she was working with her other partner in business growing up, and she wouldn't.
And my staff.
And staff. And even sometimes with us, it was never, she wouldn't baby us if we were working for her. If we were serving a party one night, she wouldn't kind of cater to us. It was always, we were working for Mom, and we're going to act as if we're working for somebody else. Not just because it's Mom, we're not going to goof off or not do our job. So I think that's the biggest difference, was seeing her with the company and her staff and knowing how we should act.
Very insightful. Now, I know that you had worked in a company prior to, but so what I want to take a step back a little bit to talk about how you started the business. First of all, the business itself, talk a little bit about it, how it started, and then how eventually your daughter got involved, because I think it's such a valuable part of your story that you worked someplace else first, and how you think that has aided you in this current situation. So if we can kind of start from the beginning with you, where you're from, and kind of how all of this evolved.
So I'm actually born and raised Annapolitan, which is what we like to call ourselves. I don't even know where that started, but I love the word. And
by the way, there are very few of them.
Yes,
they're hard to
They're
find.
really hard. They are very hard to find.
Mom's a fifth generation,
I'm a fifth generation
I'm a sixth
Annapolitan.
generation.
Oh wow, that is
which is really
rarity.
special. So I grew up in Annapolis, married a man from New Jersey who was stationed at the Naval Academy, and we moved away for just a few years, and then he was stationed back at the Academy, and after his second two tours at the Academy, he decided to get out, and we stayed here, which was fine with me because it's just such a great town. I'm a product of public schools all the way through, and Maryland public schools all the way through, and then decided to explore the hospitality industry. And I went to I took a two-year course in Washington that was the International School of Travel. And I became a travel agent, and this was in 70, God, I can't believe I'm saying this, 70s, 75, 76. And I was hired after graduating by one of my professors, who was Larry Fromer. So I ended up working for Frommer Travel right out of the gate. So that was my first legitimate career position. And so I worked for them for a number of years. And then Sheraton Hotels approached me for a position in the hotel industry. And so I decided to then shift to Sheraton Hotels. So I worked for the Sheraton in Washington for a number of years. And then I decided that I wanted to take a little time off because I found out that I was expecting, quite unexpectedly. And so I took a little time off from Sheraton. And in that time, I started a destination management company way before that term was even a term. So I didn't call it that in 1982. I don't even know what I called it. But I worked with my colleagues in DC and brought groups from Washington to Annapolis. And I worked with Chesapeake Marine Tours, which is now Watermark. And I would put them on a boat and then bring them back and have a crab feast and then put them back on a bus and send them back to DC.
How excellent.
So it was really
that?
fun.
Very
Yeah,
creative,
it was
yeah.
sort of out of the norm. So then I decided that I needed to know more about food, and so I went to l'Académie de Cuisine and in Bethesda and went through many of their cooking classes and their chef classes, and then I started a catering business. And that was in 1984. And the catering business was called Companies Coming. And there were only 3 of us in Annapolis at the time. And I built a kitchen, and I had Briar, my oldest daughter. She was 1 at the time. And then Caitlin came along in 1986. And the catering business just kept growing and growing, and the girls grew up in the business.
From a time management perspective, because you hear that a lot of with mompreneurs, which is what they call them, just juggling all of that. I mean, it sounds like you had unbelievable growth in your business as well as in your life. A family and
When I look back on it, I would say yes. When I was in the throes, no. I mean, and actually the girls have stories which we laugh about now, but I think, how did you survive?
what happened with the restaurant then?
So then the restaurant, so we had the restaurant, catering, the event planning business, and it thrived. The restaurant thrived. And I hit a point in, I guess it was like 2000.
It was like right. I was like a junior, senior.
Yeah, 2003, where the business had grown so much, and the event planning arm of the business was very demanding because clients had become more dependent on the full planning aspect of an event rather than when I first started the company. A client would call and it was basically either catering and the organization of it, but they would book the site and they would get flowers. But then all of a sudden the whole planning package became a very big piece of our business. So I sold the restaurant to my chef at the time, and he had some silent partners. And then I sold the catering arm of the business, and I just focused on the production. Mm-hmm. So I sort of scaled back in like the early 2000s, 2004, I guess. Mm-hmm. And so the restaurant continued to operate, but it was my chef and his partners. And then the catering arm continued to operate under someone else's ownership. And then it was just event production, which was really fun because then I was able to focus my interest on nonprofits because I wanted to give back, but when you have so much going on, you can't necessarily give a lot of your time because your time is, your business. Mm-hmm. So
limited too. Yeah.
Yes. So then we sort of got into the nonprofit management arm of the industry, and then
that
it just
part
continues
was
now.
Mom for 10 years, just by herself, because my sister and I were both going. I was finishing high school and then went to college, and Briar was doing the same, and she
Just
ran
me.
it, yeah. And growing
was
up, and
surreal.
somehow when she was managing the restaurant and the catering company and all of these other things, she made it to all of our lacrosse games and all of our, prom and homecomings and everything. It's like, how are you managing being there for everything? It was because a lot of parents juggle all of that, and it was really special to have an entrepreneurial mom who could also do all of those extra things with my sister and I too. And I think that really helped our relationship, because it wasn't, seeing her on the sideline of a lacrosse game was really important when we knew she had 9 events that weekend, or whatever it was going on.
Wonderful. What a wonderful
So-
testament to you.
Yeah, that's really very nice.
That is very sweet. I think too with
Sometimes I'd be
entrepreneurship.
tearing off my apron
Yeah.
in the car.
Well, so speaking of school, then you and your sister went on to school.
Yep. So we both
St.
graduated from St. Mary's. I went there first through my senior year of high school, and then I went to Anne Arundel Community College for 2 years. I just couldn't decide what I wanted to do. My junior and senior year, I was struggling just with where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do, if I wanted to play lacrosse. I had a lot of friends that went off to D1 schools and played lacrosse, and I just didn't know if that was for me. So I went to Anne Arundel, and I planned on going for 1 year. And I was like, I'm going for 1 year, that's it, I don't even want to be here. And I ended up staying for 2 because I played lacrosse, and my coach was awesome, my team was really great, and I was taking some really good classes. I did marketing there, and then when I left Anne Arundel, I went to York College for 3 years. So I did the victory lap, but transferring my credits got, how that goes.
Yeah.
Sure. So I did an extra
It
year
wasn't
at New York.
academics, it really was transferring
It was,
credits.
it was transferring from, into an
frustrating,
out-of-state
but yeah.
school. And then I got my degree in PR and marketing there.
But you got to play lacrosse
while
for 2
playing
years
lacrosse
there,
for
too.
2 years. And then I moved back to Annapolis after graduation, and I worked at the Annapolis Marriott Waterfront, which is now the Annapolis Waterfront Hotel, for 2 years. And I was front desk agent and concierge there. So that was probably one of the best decisions I could have made as far as my real first job, because I knew I kind of maybe wanted to go into the hotel industry or that arm of things. So I got to see everything, and I got to work with all of the departments and in the hotel, especially the sales and catering, which was really one of my interests. So that was great. And then when I left there, I did marketing for a small company in Eastport for 2 years. And then I went back to the hotel, and I worked at Sheraton as a sales manager for about 3 years, right before I joined the company last year.
It's a big job as a sales manager. You've learned a lot of skills during those
It
times.
was. And I'm really thankful between the front desk and the sales manager position. I learned a lot of time management. I'm very organized, so that was it helped me in a career sense to kind of keep myself organized. And then just really learning catering parts of things and selling, which I didn't have any experience selling a hotel room or a banquet hall, which pretty much is what I was doing for larger groups. And Mom had always said, we'd always talked about me working for the company, but she always said, go work for somebody else before you come work for me, which I'm thankful because I have so much experience with somebody else, and just having other bosses, you kind of realize how things work and what works for you, what doesn't work for you, a lot of time management and just figuring personalities in offices and how you adapt to that. So I think those 6 years in between college and when I started last year with the Davis Group was a lot of learning. And
it was very insightful and smart on your part, and I'm sure for the reasons that Caitlin mentioned. Was that why you thought it would be good for her to work for someone else?
Exactly. And I said to her, I've bossed you around your entire life, so let someone else do it so you hear it differently. And she said, well, eventually I want to work for you. So when she came on board last year, I said, so you're not working for me, you're coming on board. We're going to form a partnership because I want you in the business with ownership so that your role is defined and we're partners. And because she had worked for me for so many years as wait staff, kitchen staff, event day coordination. I mean, she grew. When she says that her first job was stemming grapes, it's true. Both of my girls would come into the kitchen and I would hand them a washed box of grapes and they would just pick the grapes off and we would create.
And we probably made a game of it or something, like who
fruit
could do it faster
salad
or
for 500. You know?
But I love though that you two are equal partners now in this business. I just love that. And do you have two different roles?
Yes, we do.
Mm-hmm.
We do.
And so I am, I work with the client. I'm sort of the visionary to some extent. I sort of design what it is the client's looking for. I work out logistics on site. I'll work with vendors to secure their services, and then event logistics. And then Caitlin's role is business development and the process of the event itself.
So Mom does like she said, the logistics, which she does for all of the events and the Dîner en Blanc as well. And then my role would be to develop the business, bring the business either to the Carroll House. We're working with another vendor or venue in town to hopefully start managing a lot of their events. And then with the Dîner en Blancs, I do a lot of the reaching out to vendors, getting the contracts, and then just kind of keeping that timeline of things going as well. But when we do book an event here in town, or we do a lot in DC and Baltimore and Northern Virginia, I'll take from the beginning to pretty much the end and work with be the liaison between the vendor and the client itself, which is very nice because I like to work with the clients, and I also really like to develop those relationships with the vendors too.
Working in different capacities
Yes,
too.
it's a totally different aspect of the event world, but it's or the hospitality industry. But keeping those relationships, especially here in town, is very important, I think, too.
Speaking of events, first of all, the setting here where we're at the Charles Carroll House, and this is my first time here. It is just so lovely, so beautiful. So if you could just tell us about that, and then I want to hear about the event you have in Charleston. You are much more than just an Annapolis company. You have some amazing clients.
So the Carroll House, as showing you around the house, this is part of the St. Mary's community. The Carroll House is a historic home that allows private events inside and out, in the gardens, the terrace. It's managed by a board, and the events are small and sort of curated, so to speak, because the house is primarily a historic home. So we have corporate events, retreats, conferences, rehearsal dinners. It's a beautiful location for rehearsal dinners, bridal showers, teas. We've been hosting and are creating a number of ticketed events that will take place here at the house. In the next 2 weeks, we have the Annapolis Shakespeare Company coming, and they will be here in 2 consecutive weekends, and actually performing in the garden. So it's a ticketed event, really fun, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and for 2 weekends. It's kind of a trial to see how it's received, and hopefully weather permitting, they'll have, each evening their performance. We have now coming back in this capacity it's really an honor because it's a very special home, and I have a very deep connection to it. So then the second arm that you asked about, we have a partnership with an international company called Dîner en Blanc. And Dîner en Blanc is the premise of it is a pop-up French dinner party. It started 25 years ago in Paris by this gentleman who decided, he had been traveling for a while and decided to invite his friends to meet in a park in Paris to catch up. And he told everyone to dress in white so they knew who they were, and to bring a picnic basket, and he would bring wine, and they would just enjoy each other's company. So they did, and then the second year they decided to do it again because it was so much fun.
And then bring friends, bring more people, and
right. So then over the years, it grew into a huge event. Friends invited friends, and last year in Paris they had 15,000 people attend.
Okay.
So then, so about 6 or 7 years ago, Francois's son Améric decided to take the concept and create a business. And he lives in Montreal and is based in Montreal. And so he created Dîner en Blanc International. And they had their first event in Montreal, and it was really well received. And then they expanded to New York City. And their first event in New York City, my oldest daughter, Briar, attended. And the premise is that you buy a ticket, you know the date, you choose a meeting location within the city, but you don't know where you're going. The event site is held secret until you arrive. So the press doesn't know, no one really knows where they're going. They just know where they're meeting, and then someone with the group will then take you and others to the secret location. So about 5 years ago, they reached out to Briar and said, we'd love to bring it to Washington, and this is the way we work. We partner in each city with an organizer or our partners who then produce the event. And then we give you the infrastructure to produce the event. So somehow it went from her volunteering to that event to us producing the event. Which it was really, really fun.
So you did
So
in
we
DC?
did in Washington 3 years
will be
ago,
our
our third year. So in DC, our first year, we had 1,500 guests, and we produced the event on the waterfront at Yards Park. And it was just amazing. And I said to Briar after that event, I've been in business for almost 30 years now, and this is absolutely the coolest event I've ever been a part of.
Oh,
going on.
wonderful.
And International then asked us if we'd like to become partners. So we've partnered now. Last year we hosted the event at the Carnegie Library. Right downtown, we closed city streets and we took over the entire block. And we had
no
about
small feat.
no. And we had 2,700 guests last year. And so then last year they asked us if we would like to take the event to Boston. So we did, and we hosted it in City Plaza right downtown. And 1,500 guests enjoyed Boston last year. And it was... So then 2 years ago, because we have a lot of business in Charleston as well, we decided Charleston would love to
That would be perfect for it.
Yeah.
So we approached International about taking it to Charleston. So last year, Charleston had its first Dîner en Blanc, and this year we'll take it back to Charleston in October. So Boston will be July 30th. We already have our secret location. We have about 8,000 people on our waiting list in Boston. We'll have maybe not more than 2,500 guests in Boston this year.
So it just sells out so quickly.
It sells out. And you have to kind of keep the numbers a certain size because of the space that you're able to secure for a pop-up secret dinner party, which is the premise of it.
So you have three cities now.
So we have the 3 cities, and International has just asked us to partner with them on the New York event.
Should be really nice.
Really fun. So that
we
will
have
take
our eye
place.
on another city, but we're still talking about how we'll fit that into our schedule.
Right.
Now, do just the two of you do all of this? Or do
No,
you,
so my sister Briar is our other partner in
gonna
this.
ask,
So she
yes,
works
Briar.
with us on just the Dene Blanc aspect.
Oh, how fabulous.
yeah.
Yeah. So Briar went off and after working for the company through her college years, she has been on Capitol Hill working for a senator. She's a executive scheduler now for Senator Manchin from West Virginia. But she is part of the company. We have a separate arm, which is just Dene Blanc. So she works with us on Dene Blanc, and then Caitlin and I are partners on everything else. So it's fun. So I have
fascinating.
both my daughters working with me in some aspect of the business.
Sounds like that. In terms of the vision, then in closing, what is the vision for the company? It just seems, it's just such a beautiful evolution of your beginning to what you've built, and then with your daughters, and now just kind of blossoming into some really unique and different areas. What is your vision?
It is. It's funny you asked that. I was thinking about that very thought this weekend, and how this company has evolved, and over a 30-year time frame, really. It's 32 now. Our Dene Blanc offers us an international stage and a national stage at the same time, because we've partnered with a really dynamic, interesting, forward-thinking group out of Montreal, and we have this amazing working relationship with them. We're very close to them. We're not a franchise. It isn't that relationship at all. It is a partnership. And we have 60 cities that we identify with in that realm. And the event itself is so unique. And we work with international sponsors, Gallo, Lancon Wine, Champagne, Moet Champagne. It's just a whole different level. And then we have this secondary piece that is homegrown. And we have an opportunity to work with the Carroll House and some other sites, and our corporate base of clientele, which is regional, that we travel with, but primarily focus here in this beautiful area of the country. And I feel like we have the best of everything.
We do. I don't, aside from obviously keeping the business that's coming in growing, I wouldn't change anything about the company. I love the two different aspects. Every day is so different. One day you're working on a bridal shower that's taking place at the Carroll House, and the next day you're working with the International Dene Blanc Group on logistics for the upcoming city. So it's really unique, and
We're so fortunate.
Very fortunate.
Extremely. And I think a lot of it just came through a really good business ethic that begins with producing what you say you're going to produce. And as you well know, longevity in any industry is not always easy. Businesses come, especially small businesses, come and go. But when you stay on top of it and you're willing to, one, recognize opportunity, but then also your word is the first and foremost piece of your business and the relationships that you build. And that's really what this company from day one is all about. I still have clients from the first year I started. Can you imagine that?
That says a lot.
Yeah.
And
friends. Many of my clients are really dear friends now.
Well, I just so appreciate you taking the time to share your story. It's so inspiring. And you make it seem so easy, but I know that it can
We
be.
have struggles.
Yeah, of course.
But it's fun, because at the end of the day, when we leave the office, it's back to mom and daughter.
How
and
fabulous.
We spend a lot. Some people would work the hours that they work in the office, and then once they leave, they don't see them until you go back to work, say on Monday or whatever day it is. But we spent the whole weekend together this weekend
We did.
doing family events, and we're very fortunate to have that relationship, I think. And
Well, thank you both so much for your time. It was
Thank you.
fabulous, and best
Yes,
of luck
really,
and
thank you.
continued success.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.